Hello everybody. Welcome to this webcast focusing on Stringer Topo V25 new features. My name's Shane O'Rourke. I'm the Technical Services Manager here at Civil Survey Solutions, and I have the joy of being host today. Your presenter will be Jack. So better say hello, Jack.
G'day all.
Excellent. I'll introduce Jack in a moment. So we'll be kicking off the session now. Just wanted to let you know ahead of Jack starting the presentation that we are recording the session and we will be posting up on YouTube. So if you get disrupted, you miss any bits, or you'd like to have somebody else watch what you got to see, the video will be turning up on YouTube soon after the session. During the session, questions are always welcome. Please use the Q&A panel. There'll be a button down the bottom to open up Q&A. We'll be patrolling that, and we'll either answer the question directly or answer it at the end, or answer it on the fly by typing back an answer. But any questions you have, please poke them into the Q&A panel at any time. So as I did say, you're in for a treat today. You're going to be seeing Stringer Topo V25 for Civil 3D. Your presenter is Jack, and Jack is our product manager focused on survey. And the session is a great session, really looking at speeding up your processes so that you can go faster from survey to your final drafted output, and doing more with Cocoa Points. So I'm not going to say any more than that. I'm going to hand over to Jack now, and Jack will take you away and show you the new features. So over to you, Jack.
Thanks for that, Shane. Well, welcome all to this demonstration on the new features with the latest Stringer Topo V25. Today we'll be going over a number of the new features within the software, things like the general release details, why we've pushed out this release and the new licensing and such. The brand new Travis editor and data editing tools, along with data interrogation, and the new extra property support, which allows you to now bring properties into the data. So first off, let's have a look at the release details, why we released the software as we did. So the main reason that we've released a new version is obviously to keep up to date with the latest version of CAD, these being Civil 3D and AutoCAD 2025. With the release of 2025 Civil 3D and AutoCAD, we have made the shift over to the .NET 8 framework and allowed you guys to now run up a new licensing system, which includes network licensing for anyone who's curious about that. If you are looking at network licensing, or you've had network licensing in the past and wanting to renew that, please let ourselves know, either myself or Shane. You'll see our details later on, and we'll be able to get you up and running on that. In terms of the licensing, it'll look much like you see on screen here. I'll run it up in a few moments. From here, you are able to activate the license or evaluate. This does include network and standalone. To get your new license key, you will have to go to our customer portal, accessible through our website. You'll see the Access Customer Portal, log in through there. You will have to create a new password if you're an existing user, so just keep that in mind. Once in, you'll be greeted with the customer portal scene here. Your license key will be shown to the user, and you will be able to use that key as needed. A little bit of extra information here. The user is now able to see who's using the license, or the main user is able to see who's using the licenses, so they're able to remove and talk to the people using the licensing as needed. If you're wanting to download the new version of the software, you're able to access the downloads portal, which has any of our products currently available. So if you're wanting to run up the new licensing, within Civil 3D itself, go to the Stringer Survey tab, and then over on the right here, you have License Activation. Opening this up, it will open up the license manager, and you are able to deactivate the license, see whether or not your license is currently active. This is especially useful if you're a network user. If all the license keys are out, you'll see not licensed, and the remaining licenses will be at 0. So I can see at the moment that this license key itself has 3 people currently using it, including myself. So that's the new licensing manager. Another new feature that has been added is the new ability to have traverse tools. Now, we understand that Civil 3D has a fairly comprehensive library of traverse tools within itself already. If you guys are trying to run up adjustments, Civil 3D is great for that. But Stringer is moving in the direction of starting to have those tools in it itself. This includes things such as a bowdage adjustment, a transit adjustment, crandle, and grant line adjustments. Running these up, if anyone's curious, you are able to output the report at the end. This will tell you how exactly the answer has been found. And we have confirmed for anyone curious that the answers that we get are the same as Civil 3Ds, if anyone's curious about that. So we do line up with them in that aspect. The new Travis editor form can be seen here. And let's actually run up an example of these. So you can see here that I have a drawing preset up. I have created this through the cadastral lines tool for anyone who has attended the V24 demonstration of new features. You may be familiar with this. So this has been set up via a previous set of data. And if I click on the new Travis editor button down the bottom here, that's going to open up the Travis editor for me to be able to see what my adjustments are. So the 4 adjustments can be selected using this drop down here under Method. The bowdage adjustment does a general adjustment, and it's the one that we find is most common across Australia. It's doing a general adjustment, and if you are looking for more information on the calculations, drop down output and go Traverse Report, and you'll be able to see what it's doing there. So we can see it's doing a general adjustment here. We can see by the orange text here, this is what it's going to be modifying the line work to. The white line is representing our original traverse, and the orange is representing the newly adjusted traverse. You are able to modify this further. You can see here we have 2 decimal places on our bearings. If I wanted that to instead be 0, I'm able to modify that. If I want the distance decimals to be more, let's say I wanted it to be 4 decimal points, I'm able to switch that on the fly as needed. So it's a very interactive form, allowing you to quickly update the information as needed. If you're wanting to switch to a different adjustment, all you have to use is use the drop down here. And let's say I want to do a transit adjustment. The lengths that I have here are what I expect them to be, and I'm wanting to weigh more on the on the line work itself, on the lengths. The angles I'm wanting to modify, so I'm going to switch to transit, and we can see that it's updating based on that. The line work now has heavier weighting to it, so the angles are what are being adjusted out more harshly than the distances. If I wanted to instead I wanted to keep my angles and I wanted to switch my lengths, I can drop this down and run the crandle adjustment, and we can see that it's updating that further. If I switch this over to none, for instance, we can see the angles being kept. So I have 84, 58, 22 up the top here. Switching back to crandles, you can see that it's held that angle. So all the weighting is on the angle itself, and the distances are what are being modified to close off this traverse. So that's how this is all being run up. If I switch back to bowdage, which again, we have found to be the most common one for surveyors to use within Melbourne, and I close off the draw cadastral lines now. If I want to output this back, I'm able to drop down output and do things such as create the COGO points. This will create the points in the drawing, or more importantly, I can create the line work to see how the traverse is being adjusted and use that for future survey work. So if I go draw cadastral lines or draw CAD lines, it's going to bring up the styles that I'm going to set. So what layer do I want this to come in on? Dropping this down, I can access any layer that's currently within the drawing. So in this case, I'm working with instrument station. So I'm going to switch it over to instrument station layer. Same for the text, I'm going to set the same. The text style is again being read from the Civil 3D drawing. So I'll switch it to ISO CP, which is what our default currently is. And text height and label offset can be set as needed. If label offset isn't clear on what it's doing, it's basically offsetting the text from the line work by a set amount. So if I go OK now, it's going to go ahead and it's going to create the traverse within the drawing along with the bearings and distances. Very handy if you're trying to get this information into the software quick and you're wanting to draft up a plan as quick as possible. Now, I did mention that there are four methods, four traverse adjustment methods, and the last one is grant line. So we have a similar situation here where I have gone ahead and drawn in a survey, a cadastral survey based on this information. But in this case here, you can see it doesn't close off. We have an open traverse. We've gone down a road or gone across a paddock and we're wanting to do an adjustment on this information. So we're going to run Traverse Editor again, and that's going to bring up the Traverse Editor for us to work with. And this time we're going to work with grant line. Now, how grant line works is that it scales, rotates, and moves the information based on the traverse and the first and end point of the survey. So it's got the information here to be able to go ahead and create the original traverse, but we need to tell it where the end point is. So I select the end point. We're not going to select this point here. Let's say you've picked up another point that you know is correct. You've put it in via some web-based service. You've grabbed it from Lassie. You've grabbed it from any of the other ones. You're able to select that point in the drawing, and it's going to adjust that information in here. It's going to adjust your traverse out based on that information. Again, you are able to output this data as needed and save the traverse report exactly the same as if you did it prior. So if I save this here, you can see traverse report, it's saving as an Excel file. If I go save now, the Excel report has been exported successfully. And if I just open up that Excel document, so you can see here that it has been created just now. So if I open up that file, we can see the calculations that have been run to get us the adjustment that we have done. So you now have the ability to save all that information and use it in the future, either for documentation purposes, anything you may need to submit with that information can now be done vastly easier than if you were using the old legacy version of this command. The next thing that has been added to the software is brand new data editing tools. For instance, we now have three options to be able to work with this data. The first one is the new Quick Edit tool. Quick Edit allows you to rapidly get into the point and change things such as the point number, elevation, and description. The weakness of this command is that it is only those 3 points. You're only allowed to edit the properties of those 3 areas. If you're wanting to edit more information to the point, but you're not looking to deep dive into everything that the point can possibly store, points list is the way to go. This allows you to get a list of all of the points, filter them as needed, and access a variety of different properties as set by the user. You can see in the example here, I have access to point number, easting, northing, elevation, and code, and I'm able to edit each of those fields as if I was modifying something in Excel. The last option for doing data editing is the edit point command. This allows you to edit all properties of a point, but it can be overwhelming for some users. Using this command, you're able to edit every aspect of that point's properties as needed, and then save that edit for future use. So let's have a look at this now. I'm going to open up a brand new drawing that has only had the data loaded in, and from here, I'm able to do edits as needed. If I'm wanting to run up Quick Edit, I can come up to the Quick Editing command up here, select that, and then select a point in the drawing for me to edit. So let's say I want to edit 1153 here. I can select the point and go enter, and that's going to open up the dialog box for me to be able to work with. If I want to edit the elevation, I can now change it to be, let's do something drastic and call it 98 for a new elevation and go apply. And we can see that everything dynamically updates with that change. If I close that dialog box now and zoom in, we can see that it's automatically had the point edited and the surfaces updated with it. So you can quickly go ahead and do those edits. If you're wanting to edit on a deeper level though, the points list is the way to go about this. To access points list, the easiest way, in my opinion, is to go Toolspace to open up the new Toolspace editor. Select the point group you're wanting to edit. So in this case, I'll be editing trees here. Right-click and go Point List. That will open up the new editor for us to be able to work with. Now, looking through here, I can see I have a number of 204 codes. I can zoom to these as needed, but I also have some TR codes. These TR codes are not what I'm intending to use here. I'm wanting to switch these over to something that's a bit more usable. So in this case, I'm going to simply edit these, call them 201, which is what they're going to be. And we can see that they have now updated in the drawing based on the changes I've made. Any of these fields that I'm wanting to work with, I'm able to modify as needed. Let's say I want to edit the elevation. I wanted to change this to 89. I'm able to modify that. And as per the previous command as well, that surface is dynamically updating with the edit to the point information. You can also use this as a filter tool of sorts. If I close this one down now and open up something with a few more points, let's say contourable, which has a number of different points, as you can see here. I'm going to right click and go points list. That's going to open up the list of points here. And let's say I was looking for a point number that was around 2000. Actually, let's go 1200. I get a list of all the points necessary, that reference that point number. Every point over it is ready for me to be able to go ahead and edit. And I'm able to select between these and edit them as needed. So this can be a very powerful tool for working with this. I'm able to very quickly get around my drawing and do edits as I need it. Well, let's say you need to go a step further. I needed to get into the nitty gritty of this point. I needed to edit it at its rawest point. I can use the drop down for quick edit and select edit point instead. Selecting this works much the same. I'm able to select the point and go enter, but this time it's going to open up the Kogo point edit tool. Now from here, I'm able to access every property that we think could be associated with that point, but I'm also able to add new properties to it as needed. But in this case, let's say I want to modify the elevation. You can see that it's listed here, and I'm able to modify it as needed. Let's change it to 89 again, go apply changes, and it updates in the drawing. But I'm able to modify more than that if I wanted to. I have a lot more control over what's being used here. So those are the new data editing tools that have been added to the software, allowing you to do vastly more editing as needed. But let's say you didn't need to edit the data at this point. You've gone through, you've done your edits, but you wanted to interrogate the data. You wanted to get a bit more information out of it. A new tool that we've added in for this is data interrogation. Data interrogation allows you to query the data within the survey and get information out of it, such as 2D distance between points, the angle between the points, the slope distance, the slope angle. All of that can be read between 2 points now. For anyone who's used the HD tool in the past, this is our new tool that kind of answers that command, allowing you to very quickly go ahead and select 2 points in the drawing. Let's say this one and this one down here. And we're able to pull out information such as the 2D distance, the angle between them, the height difference between those 2 points. All the information that you need between those 2 points is now listed in here instead of down on the command line. If you've run something like HD, for instance, horizontal distance, you'll be familiar with that information appearing on the command line. This allows you a more easy to access option that remains open until you wish to close it. Furthermore, if I'm wanting to do more information off of point 1153, I can simply select the selected down here again and just select a new point to work with. It's going to keep the origin point number, and I'm able to continue doing research off of that point if needed. Very handy if you're doing something like a traverse and you're needing to get that information off of it. Another tool that has been added is the ability to run up 2D transformations. A lot of tools within our software at the moment, within Stringer at the moment, allow you to modify the survey on a larger level. These allow you to do it on a 2D plane. For anyone who's used our software in the last year will be familiar with the transform command. This allows you to do it in a 2D way. Move, scale, rotate, and offset allow you to very quickly get the data and adjust it as needed. So to run these commands, you would go into the point groups command up the top here. From point groups, select the point group you're wanting to apply these adjustments to or these transformations to. In this case, I'm going to be applying it to, actually, let's apply it to all points in this circumstance. From all points, if I'm wanting to apply the adjustment to all points in the drawing, simply leave it selected as is. So I've only got one point selected. If I wanted to apply it to multiple points, I can hold down Control and select the points I'm wanting to apply this to. So you've got two different ways of applying this. If you're unsure and you're wanting to select everything you can, just go Control A, and that will actually highlight everything in point groups ready for you to be able to adjust. So to actually access these commands, come down to the bottom here where it says Options. We have a number of different editing tools here for anyone that's unaware, but the one that we're going to focus on right now is 2D transformation. Opening up 2D transformation, we're able to run any of these four commands. So let's say I wanted to move the data. I simply select that command. It's saying, are you sure you want to move the selected COGO points? I'm going to go yes. And then I'm able to select 2 points that I want to move between. So I'm selecting the base point here in the bottom corner. And let's say I want to move it over here. You can see it moves all the data and the surface catches up with it, showing that the move has been done. So you're able to move everything around very quickly. If instead you wanted to scale the drawing, a lot of times you want to go from ground to grid, GPS to ground, all that kind of stuff. To run this up, you can go Options, go to 2D transformations, and you can go Scale. Now, normally you'd be doing this at something like 0.99928, not much of a visual demonstration there. So what I'm going to do is scale it up by a factor of 2. So actually, let's go back a bit. I'll give us more of a window for us to see this actually being applied. So let's go back to all points, Options, 2D transformation, and scale. Leave myself zoomed out this time and just select that point. Leave it at 2. And we can see it scaling up. So all of that has now scaled up by a factor of 2, and the surface has updated with it, along with all the line work. So it's very easy to apply, very dynamic in how everything updates alongside it. You're not having to press any excess buttons, not having to update the point groups or the surface again. Everything gets updated with the transformation. So these are very handy tools to be able to run as needed. Now, an area that Stringer is wanting to move into in the future is the ability to do property support. Things Civil 3D already does, things such as the UDP points, we're wanting to work alongside those, allowing you to assign various properties to the points as needed. Now, to get started in that journey, Stringer has introduced what's called XL Connect. Now, XL Connect works by having the property field already exist on the point, but allowing us to assign property values to that property field as needed. For instance, let's say that a point had a tree on it, and you wanted to add tree type. So tree type would be the field, and we're wanting to populate that with information either from a local source of some kind. You've gone out, the person that you're doing the job for has already supplied the tree types. You're just wanting to assign it to the point itself. You're able to use an Excel document to link the points to the Excel file and update the property as needed. With this, you also have the ability now to export out these extra properties. So you've got tree type on the point itself. You're wanting to export that information out as something like an XRE shapefile, even something like a CSV. All of that can be exported. So I know that probably sounded a little bit confusing. Let's actually see this in practice. So we have various points in our survey at the moment. However, these have been set up with the point system of things such as, let's go down and we'll work with trees. So opening up the property list, we're only able to work with the properties that are listed here. If we scroll down to the bottom, we have type, and type is something that we're able to see and work with. This has not been applied to any other point type, any other point styles. So if we try to apply a type field to this, it will not be registered in. Now, this has only been applied to a few points. If I open up the point code set and we have a look at 201 codes, which is our one for tree, we can see we have tree set for this. But we also have codes such as 205, which are using the default PZD. These are going to be listed in our point group. So if I open up point groups at the moment and go down to trees, we're only applying this to 201, not any of our 204 codes. So once I run this up, only those ones will be affected. Now I want it to use a property list so that we can actually see the data being brought in. So I'm going to let's run that afterwards. So we're going to run Excel Connect and attach some Excel data to those 201 codes. To do this, I'm going to go import from Excel. Actually, no, I do need to run the other one. My apologies for that. We do actually need to tell it what we're being exported. So we're going to go to point groups and we're going to tell it we're going to be running the property list because we need to tell it what it's going to be exporting. We're going to be exporting out various different information from here. I need to add a custom property of type for the export itself and go apply. So now the software is recognizing that when we export data, we're going to be exporting with a field of type. Closing this down, we're going to run Excel Connect to export this out. And we're going to set a workbook. This is going to be the Excel document that we're going to be working with. You can have an Excel document already existing, and it can be brought in using, this command and a function of sync links. So I'm going to hit the plus here, and we're going to go tree type for the export. The file name, I'm going to call this one tree type. And I'm going to go OK. So this is now stored, ready for me to work with. Now we have a number of different aspects we're able to export out and import in. All of these can be used as needed. If you're working with something like a road, you can use any of these. If you're working with alignment, you can use the alignment control. But in this case, we're working with a property. We're exporting out that property of type as stated, and we're going to be working with it. So I'm selecting property control. This all looks good. We've got the point name here, point group property. Actually, let's call this one type. The workbook, we're using that workbook that we set over here. So that's the one that's using. We're working off of sheet 1. The point group we're applying this to tree civil 3D. And we're exporting out here a property of type for us to re-import in. We've got the point number, so it's reading in the point number. That's going to be the link to the point itself. And the point property that we've set, we're exporting out type, and it's being set to B1. So this is what's going to be the link between that field. We're wanting to set up the Excel exports because we're exporting out the file for us to work with. And then we're going to go OK. Now you can set up various processes as needed. I recommend just leaving it on default for now, but if you do have your own exports that you're wanting to switch between, you can modify this. So I'm going to go OK. And we can see that it has now exported this out. You can have multiple properties being exported here. So you could have tree name, you could have whether or not it needs to be cut down or not. You could have whether or not it was some other aspect, it was at risk of falling. All of that can be added in as needed. So I'm exporting that out. I'll update this file here, and we can see that we now have a tree type file that's been created. So opening this up, we have all the point numbers for what we've exported, and tree type is going to be this B1 field. So I'm able to fill in various aspects here, like a cedar tree, maple tree, various ones I'm able to put in. In the interest of time, I'm just going to call the rest of these maple, and then I'm going to save the document. Now, this Excel file has been linked to these points, to this point group, as I stated. So what I want to do now is go run Excel link, and that's going to link that information in. These points now hold that property information on it. If I go back to point groups now, and we go down to trees civil 3D, we can see it's been applied to these 201 points. These are the ones that have been associated with it. But you'll see that the 204s haven't had it added, and the 201s that we edited earlier don't have it. The reasoning for this is that we didn't associate them with a point style that held the information. These points do not have the property attached to them. So I need to set that up. Going back a little bit, we're now going to go back to the point code set. Click on numeric because this is the point style that's being applied. We're going to go down to the 204 and we're going to switch the tree point style over to, well, tree. Once this has been set, these points are now associating that point style with it. That property that we added to the point earlier when we ran up point style is now being associated with 204 and 201. So closing this down, if I now go back to point groups, and we'll have to update the point group, so I'm just going to highlight all of them, drop down options, apply styles from code set, reassociate that with it. And if we now resync our file, so we got sync links here, we can see that they now all have that property attached to them. Now you can work with this in a variety of different ways. You're able to export it and import it in other areas as needed. If we wanted, we can export it out as a CSV file, just add on the extra property and you're able to export it out as a CSV or text. You are able to set it out as a CAD table, a KML, if anyone here uses Google Earth, can be a very powerful tool for using it. But the last one we're able to export out is the Esri shapefile format. Now, the Esri shapefile format allows you to export out the line works and the points as separate files. So let's switch over to the Controllable Civil 3D one that has a bit more information to it. And we're going to export out this Esri shapefile that holds all the property information on it. Selecting this, you're able to specify where you want it to export to. So I'm just going to tell it to export out to where we currently are. And we'll call this one Jones Oval export. So that file, it now comes up saying that they've been exported out. And if we have a look in our file here, we can see that we now have Jones Oval export points shapefile and a Jones Oval export string shapefile. So you've got both of those exported out. This can be manipulated, well, not manipulated, this can be brought into a number of different applications, including Civil 3D. If we move this out of the way and we start up a new job to work with here, we're able to pull these shape files and even import them into Civil 3D here. So we can see all of that's been exported out and we have the property information attached to those as needed. So there's a variety of different things that have been added to the new stringer. We have the brand new ability to be able to work with Travis tools. So we've got the Travis editor allowing you to be able to work with that. You've got the ability to edit your data a lot more freely now by dropping this down and working with quick edit and edit points, or you're able to work with the new points list tool, allowing you to very quickly get around and do your edits. Data interrogation can be found under inquire points, allowing you to very quickly inquire any of the data within your survey, getting information between those 2 points as needed. And point group now has the ability to work with the adjustments as needed, so 2D transformations. Excel Connect is an area we plan to work on more as future development occurs. So I hope you enjoyed what you saw of that currently. And with that, I thank you for attending this webinar. If you're wanting to sign up for our next webinar, which will go over transferring legacy files from Stringer Legacy to the new Stringer Topo, you can use the QR code on screen at the moment to sign up for that early. Otherwise, are there any questions from the audience?
Thanks for that, Jack. We've had one question, which was really about some techniques for editing elevations if there were issues with elevations. And the question was really around if the stations you were collecting from had the wrong height, is it easy to grab the points collected from that station and adjust them all at once? And the answer to that really is that you could go to the point group form, select all the affected points, and in the options area where Jack said there's heaps of tools, there is an elevation increment. Do exactly that.
Uh,
If you brought the points in using import and reduce, then you could just edit the control point, and the shots that come off that would be affected. So there's the elevation increment, and that would do an adjustment on whatever points you had selected. If Jack does it right now, it'll do it to all the points because one is for all, but you could select points and do it to groups.
I'd also put in there, I'd recommend running up transform points as you have the datum shift ability down here,
There we go.
and that will also work with it.
Yep, that's a great place to point to as well. So that was the only question that's come in so far. If anybody's got any other questions, please throw them in as we, I guess, look to sum up. But thank you, Jack, for that session. Hope everybody found it quite informative. We certainly welcome your input on anything you would like to know more about in Stringer Topo or surveying tools in Civil 3D. Um, please make contact with us if you've got any suggestions for webcasts you think would be good to learn about. We certainly are looking to round up more webcasts and do some deeper dives across the software. So if you've got suggestions, please feed them our way. Otherwise, thank you very much, Jack, for that session. What you can see on screen, everybody, is the address to our YouTube page. So please hop in there uh, shortly. We'll be posting the video up, and there's also a QR code if you've got your phone out, ready to take a snapshot. So that's it for us. We'll close the session now, but thank you everybody and for attending and thanks Jack.
Thanks all.